sugar felt like this really beautiful entry point to thinking about and engaging in the history of what does it mean to be estadounidense, American, inside of this nation that we call home. It was pre-pandemic where I first started thinking about this piece. And then over the pandemic, I was reading 1619, reading My Grandmother's Hands by Resmaa Menakem. There's a whole chapter on sugar and the ways in which all these institutions were built on the backs of enslaved Africans who were cultivating sugar and then sending that back to Europe, and everything we think of as like the European empire was built from sugar, right? So that those relationships between our history, our lineages, our own embodied racialized trauma, and that becoming a place where it was like the soil from which the piece began to really grow.
We are bringing some of the dances from the Yoruba tradition and the Arara tradition of some of the ethnic groups in Cuba, in the Afro-Cuban traditions.
I'm Cuban American. I'm not living in Cuba. I wasn't born in Cuba, but Cuba's inside of me.
I have been training CONTRA-TIEMPO for over 10 years now. So what the bata drums are playing underneath everything is the real deal. But we always play around. So it's like, I always call it my tightrope when I work with CONTRA-TIEMPO. To be what is my title.
Those of us who are from multiple cultures, multiple ethnicities, multiple racial identities feel stuck. Like we have to, like, in order to do justice, we have to like replicate what has already been done. And Katy has allowed me to be like free and like liberated in my relationship with art making, but also still deeply in reverence to and in love with and like honoring where I come from.
I do see the projections as like an ancestral kind of presence. Oftentimes projections for me are a way to invoke and evoke like past, present, and future timelines that we don't see in the actual space.
Should be rooted down into those complexities? Who are these systems set up to serve anyway? Is it possible to
I think that CONTRA-TIEMPO is actually a really beautiful company and group of artists to be in conversation with one another about subject matter that can feel oppositional.
I've definitely had conversations with Ana Maria, probably the most around like how do we reconcile with these intense histories just by being here.
It's been wild to be inside of a church space, both in the process of continuing to develop this piece, but also in the final sharing here in our Pillow Lab is being in a spiritual space, being in a building that houses organized religion and the ways in which the church funded colonization. The juxtaposition of that image of like holding the sugarcane as if it were like this regal, magical staff inside of a space with that contradiction felt more rich and powerful than I even imagined. We can actually be in relationship to our history and to some of the harm and trauma that has been a part of all of our histories. And we can choose how we're going to show up in those spaces. And we can actually, through those choices and through those actions, we can completely reconnect and reimagine and remember what these gathering spaces around spirituality and around connection to spirit were set up to be.
It's probably not a coincidence that a work that is about deep, deep healing, about liberation, about joy, about this radical act for loving is invited to be here in this space, in this place, and in this time, because I think they're conversations that want to be had with each other and not against each other. The residency work at the Pillow has really given CONTRA-TIEMPO a chance to just deepen what it's like to just ask questions, to genuinely just be curious, and to have a space that allows for that, an opportunity to sit its own work in a different context, to deeper examine then what is really substantive.
I had this realization when we got here that I've never, as an artist, had a moment in time where I've had literally everything cleared off my plate so that I could be fully present in the creative process. I've always been mothering or, running a company administratively while trying to choreograph something, or being in graduate school. We really got to play a lot in this residency with the actual props in real time in a way that was beyond what we had been able to do before we came. All of us, whether we come from LA or New York or Phoenix, Arizona, they're coming from a lot of different places in CONTRA-TIEMPO. There is this way that being in an environment where we are like really rooting down, like not hearing the sounds of the city, but moving under the trees and feeling the wind and smelling the air, right? And the sound of the snow when it first falls, and like those parts of like really rooting down into Mother Nature. That was also another layer of gift. The creation and the engagement and the asking questions is the thing, not the product at the end. Yes, we're in some ways finishing this piece and we're landing this piece and it's going to continue to tour, but the work continues to evolve, the work continues to grow, it continues to deepen its meaning, it deepens the relationships of the performers with one another. Every time we hear the different things that are landing for people, you all are out now a part of this piece, and we'll continue to be a part of this piece as we evolve it.
My role as a somatic ecologist came about, really, I think out of the heart space of Ana Maria from perhaps the inception of her whole life and artistic trajectory. In order to actually produce and to coordinate anything, there are human bodies involved. And if we're really trying to ground in principles of love and care and non-exploitation, a part of the production role has to be like, how do we produce what we produce?